All right, let's dive in. Today, we're opening up the researcher's toolkit to figure out how we measure the things we can't see, our own thoughts and feelings. We're talking about something called the self-report. So think about this for a second. How do scientists get a peek into our inner world? You know, the stuff that no one else can see. Our dreams, our fears, those secret thoughts that drive what we do. How on earth do you study that?
Well, it's going to sound almost ridiculously simple, but the most direct, powerful way to find out what someone's thinking or feeling is to just ask them. Yep, that's it. And that simple act is the foundation of a massive research technique.
And that technique has a name. It's called a self-report. Basically, it's any time a researcher asks you, the participant, for your side of the story, about your own thoughts, your feelings, your behavior. It's like a direct line into your personal experience.
Okay, so if a researcher wants to use self-reports, what are their options? Well, they've got two main instruments in their toolkit. We're talking about interviews and questionnaires. Let's break those down. An interview is basically a conversation, right? It's usually spoken, and it's perfect for really digging deep with a small number of people because you can ask follow-up questions on the fly. Questionnaires, on the other hand, are usually written. They are super efficient for getting information from huge groups of people, and, this is key, they can be anonymous, which is great for sensitive topics.
But, not all interviews are the same. They really come in 3 different flavors. A structured interview is super rigid, like a script. Every single person gets asked the exact same questions in the exact same order. On the total opposite end, you have an unstructured interview, which is just a free-flowing, spontaneous conversation. And then right in the middle, you have the semi-structured interview. This is probably the most common. It uses a guide, but gives the researcher freedom to explore interesting things that come up.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if you choose an interview or a questionnaire. You're going to face the exact same fundamental challenge. It's not just what you ask, it's how you ask it. This is really the art of the question.
And this brings us to a classic trade-off in research. You can ask free response or open-ended questions. This gives you incredibly rich, detailed answers, in the person's own words. The downside? That stuff is really hard to score and analyze with stats. The alternative is fixed response or closed-ended questions. Here, the participant just picks from a list of options. The data is super easy to score and analyze, but you lose all that nuance, all that personality.
So here's a perfect example of a free response question. See how there are no boxes to check? A researcher asking this wants your story. They want the messy, detailed, human answer in your own words.
Now contrast that with this. This is a fixed response question. The last one asked what and how. This one asks how often. The researcher isn't looking for a story anymore. They're looking for a clean data point that they can easily put into a category, like always or sometimes or never.
Let's zoom in on one of the most popular types of fixed response questions out there, the rating scale. I guarantee you've seen these a million times. They ask you to rate something on a numerical scale. And the most famous one of all is called the Likert scale. And here it is, in the wild, a classic Likert scale item. You get a statement, and you have to place yourself on the spectrum of agreement. It's so much more powerful than a simple yes or no because it captures the strength of your attitude.
So how does your agree or disagree turn into a number a scientist can use? Well, it's a pretty clever process. First, you'll answer a bunch of these statements. Now here's the trick. Some statements are worded negatively. For those, the researcher reverses the score, so strongly agree might become a 1 instead of a 5. Finally, they add up all your scores to get one single number that represents your overall attitude. Pretty neat, huh?
So far, all the tools we've talked about are one-on-one. But what happens if you get people talking to each other? Well, that brings us to a very special instrument in the toolkit, the focus group.
Now, a focus group is not just a group interview. The absolute key, the magic ingredient, is the interaction between the people in the group. They build on each other's ideas, they might disagree, they share stories, and all that back and forth can bring out insights you'd just never get in a one-on-one chat.
But like any tool, it's a trade-off. The huge pro is that you get incredibly rich, detailed data. That safety in numbers feeling can really help people open up. On the flip side, you lose confidentiality. I mean, you're in a room with other people,
And the data you get is a real beast to analyze. It's complex, it's time-consuming, and two different researchers could listen to the same tape and come away with totally different conclusions.
Okay, let's zoom back out. We've looked at the different tools: interviews, questionnaires, focus groups. Now for the user's guide. What are the big picture strengths and weaknesses of relying on self-reports in general?
There's a reason self-reports are a cornerstone of research. For starters, they're just so efficient and cheap for getting data from lots of people. But more than that, sometimes they're the only way to study something. I mean, how else can you study someone's self-esteem or their private beliefs? And when they're anonymous, you can get really honest data on super sensitive topics.
But, and this is a really big but, we have to be careful. We can't just take every answer at face value because, well, people aren't always perfect reporters of their own lives.
And here's maybe the biggest pitfall of all. It's called the social desirability effect. This is that natural human tendency we all have to answer questions in a way that makes us look good. You know, to seem a little smarter, a little nicer, a little more socially acceptable. We all want to present our best selves, and that can really mess with the data.
And beyond that, you've got other very human issues. Our memories aren't perfect video recorders. For some people, language can be a barrier. People might just be too embarrassed to say how they really feel. And researchers are always worried about non-response bias. In other words, are the people who chose not to answer the survey different in some important way from the people who did? That's a huge question.
So the next time you fill out a survey or a poll online, you'll have this researcher's toolkit. You can look at it and ask, is this an open or a closed question? Oh, they're using a Likert scale here. Am I answering this way because it's true or because I want to look good? You now have the lens to see the science hiding behind the questions. So, what will you notice?